Well, I told you before that I'm a preacher's kid, and basically, there's a whole bunch of things that involves. One of them is we if there was a meeting at church, we were there. It's kind of I when I was a kid, I had a drug problem. Every time the church was open, my parents drugged me there. Oh, well, I I grew up in the church. I mean, the church was the center of our life. And then when I got into high school, at first I thought as a kid I'll be a preacher just like my daddy. And then I got in, a few years later, I decided, no, I don't think so. And then, about my freshman year in college, I thought, no, definitely not. That's not what I want to be. And then, well, things changed. And guess what I wound up being? I started for 17 years in youth and music, and then I moved into family ministry for 11 years, and then care ministry for 13, and then interim lead pastor for 3.5, and now pastoral counseling. I just I don't know that I ever would have imagined the trajectory that my life has taken. It's been from the beginning. The center point was church. And for a long time, it was at the church building. Today, not so much the building, but still very much the church. One of the aspects of that is that my entire career has been connected to and in some ways has had an orbit that involves the polity, the governing, the way a church is organized. And one aspect of that is that I've grown up in and am still part of churches that had elders, and that has been both a source of joy and occasionally pretty severe headaches. Now, here's the thing that I have noticed. In these churches, these congregations that are governed with elders, you can call that whatever you want to, the ecclesiology. It doesn't matter what you call it. The fact is, when a family needs leadership, and the congregations that I've always been a part of have followed what we understood the example to be from the New Testament. And the example is clear in the New Testament. There were elders. Now here's where the rub comes. Almost nobody can tell me what is an elder supposed to do. Almost everybody, and I'm talking about those who are or have been elders, almost everybody can tell me what an elder is supposed to be like, what their character profile is supposed to be. And the reason for that is because it is spelled out. And the passage we're going to look at today is one of the places where Paul, through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, spells out what kind of person, what should be the character profile of the men who are elders, who lead in God's family. I would love to say more about what I think, my opinions about what elders should do. I'm going to withhold that. And let's dive right into what should they be like? What should they be? Because what a person should be, that is the well from which they draw what they do. Okay, here we go. We're in 1 Timothy chapter 3. Somebody throw some confetti. We've moved to chapter 3. Whoopee! That was a poem. Here's a trustworthy saying. That to me is an interesting saying, a trustworthy saying, as though Paul is saying, you can take this to the bank. Whoever aspires to being an overseer desires a noble task. Now, overseer, that's translated here in the New International Version, comes from a word that in Greek, as I understand it, I've told you before, I don't know Greek. I take everybody, other scholars' word for it. This overseer could be translated elder. It could be translated presbyter, because the Greek word is presbyteros, and that it really does mean overseer. All right. That's a hint with regard to what is the job, what does this person do within the church. But there are no bullet points to it, right? It's just overseer. Okay. Let me back up, because this deserves a few words. To be an overseer can look several different ways. There is a dominating overseer. This is a person who leads by command and control. They tell people what to do. And then I'm only talking about my experience now, okay, but then after they tell people what to do, they criticize them about how they did it. Or they micromanage them, and so everyone that they oversee becomes merely a gopher to the overall plan of this overseer. If you've ever worked in that kind of situation, it can be done. You can even be somewhat productive, but it can be really confining as well, emotionally confining. That is my least favorite kind of overseer to work with, because here's an aspect of that. You don't ever get to work with them. You only work for them. All right, here, this is an opinion, but I have a strong opinion that when I worked in a church, I worked for only one. I worked for God, right? I work with his kids, his children. And there is an organization, there is a structure that we work within, but there is this shoulder-to-shoulder view. Now, an overseer with a shoulder-to-shoulder view is one who oversees without controlling, and this is really delicate, but it is possible to oversee without controlling. This is where you cast vision on the basis of two things: what you sense God is leading in, and what you sense the needs and capabilities of the people under your care. See, an overseer, and I think in the most positive, useful sense, an effective sense, is one who gives care. We give care so that, and here's the bottom line, so that disciples can be made and can grow to make disciples who can grow and make disciples who can. And so there's this flywheel of spiritual energy and growth and vitality. But that doesn't usually happen under command and control. Usually it happens under an empowerment mentality, which says, again, my opinion, I want you to discover God's gifts in your life? What has He created you to do and do well? I want to set you up so that you can exercise your gifts for the sake of the health and vitality of His family. And when that happens, you will be fulfilled, but that's not the most important thing. It's a byproduct of the fact that the church, God's family, will be enhanced. It will grow. It will be healthy. It will have influence and impact in the community. All right, overseers. We're going to call those guys elders. And Paul says, whoever aspires to be an overseer desires a noble task. All right, let's look at the first. Whoever desires. Whoever aspires. To desire and to aspire are almost the same thing, but not quite. To desire means I want. To aspire means this is a goal, an objective that I will work toward. Now, a lot of people aspire to things in hope that somebody will grant that to them. I suppose that may still be an aspiration. But to aspire offers up a higher level of intense desire. All right, to aspire, whoever aspires to be an overseer desires a noble task. To be an overseer, to become and be an elder is a noble task. I believe, I'm full of my opinions this morning, and I won't apologize, but you need to know almost all of this is just my opinion. But my opinion is that when an elder crosses the line, when an overseer crosses the line and moves away from empowerment and into power, that's where it is no longer a noble task. If a man is in a position as an overseer, as an elder, and they believe they have the power, they tell people how it's going to be. I believe they've crossed a line, and they're no longer endeavoring in a noble task, because it's no longer about the pursuit of God's mission and the health of His family. It's now about their own status, their own power. I've been involved in power plays among elders, but only a couple of times. And there was never in those experiences anything positive that was contributed into God's family until either that person stepped away or they realized what had happened and they repented and stepped back into the role of overseer, in the sense of my job is to empower people to pursue Jesus and His mission and His will. The control aspect is a big key. Control and power. If control and power become any part of the objective of an overseer, my opinion is they're no longer doing a noble task. The nobility of this task has to do with their unselfish desires to see God's kingdom grow and become more and more effective toward the mission and healthy as His family. I've got some more to say about that next time, and I'll just leave it at that. There's more for me to say. I'll see you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.